G'day everybody, working on a Landcruiser again today, doing something a little bit different. I am putting a dual battery isolator on it and I'm going to whack a dual second battery in there. So I'll show you what I'm up to. Well, I haven't done a lot, I've just mounted the isolator itself. So I got myself a red arc isolator and I've mounted that up to the battery cradle. Yeah, that's all I've done so far, it's just bolted through. This is literally the best spot I can mount it to at the moment. I couldn't be bothered making up a bracket that come out there. There's just not really enough room with this pipe in the way. And there isn't really enough room. You can't fit it in there or anything. So it's just, yeah, it's how it's gonna work. I've had the battery in there, it does fit. It looks a little bit tight, but she'll be right. So what I've really got to do, what's left on this one, is I'll hook up this earth wire. I'm just gonna put it at the back there, one of those bolts. This is the override wire, and I'm gonna run an override switch in the cab of the ute. What that'll mean is that I will have a button in the ute that I'll press if like this battery goes flat. Press the button and that'll jump the two batteries together. So I'm essentially jump starting the ute off the second battery. Obviously gonna hook the wires off that battery to this and then to the other battery. So that's what I'm up to. These things are dead simple to set up. There's probably a million videos on how to do it, but I'm making my own. So yeah. So I will get myself set up and I'll show you what I'm up to. All right, what I've done is I've got the second battery in here. I've mounted that earth wire up on there. Now what I'm going to do is measure up the length of wire I need. So we need one that goes from the positive of the cranking battery down to this side of the isolator. And then I need another one that comes from there to the positive on the second battery. So what I'll do is I'll measure them up and cut them. Then I'll be right to crimp the ends onto my wire and then I'll put them on. Okay, so I have cut me lengths of wire. I've made a mark on each end of where the end slips on, so that goes on that far. So I've made a mark with a pair of pliers. That's how much I need to cut off. So what I'm going to do is go around with me side cutters and just try and cut this conduit off the wiring. So if you just keep going around and squeezing it, eventually it cuts through. And then I should be able to strip that off the wire. There we go. So I've got that off. Now that should slip into me end here. And I'll crimp that down. So I'll go along and I'll do that to the other ends on my wiring. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do to crimp it down. Alright, so I've cut both ends off the wiring, as you can see. Now I'm going to crimp this. Now with these terminal ends, you can get a special crimping tool to do it. I don't have one. I could have borrowed one, but I think just squishing in the vise is just as good, if not better. I find that sometimes because they don't squish the whole length of this end, this can come out. With the vise, I find you can do it as hard as you bloody well want. And she seems to stick in there pretty good. So that's what I'm going to do. So what I'll do is I'll just stick this in the vise, wander out a little bit. Making sure that I've got the end of the wire all the way up there. So that's all the way in that fitting. And we'll just do the vise up super tight. Alright, that should be tight enough, I reckon. There we go. Flat as a pancake, just about. So that should be pretty good. Just give her a yank, see if she moves or not. All good. So I'll do the same on the other end. I'm also going to heat shrink this, put a bit of heat shrink over there. I'll show you that as well. Alright, I've got some heat shrink on here. So what I'm going to do now is just get my heat gun and I'll shrink that down, make it look nice and neat. Alright, so I've done that to both ends and that's ready to go into the ute now. Alright, that wire's done. I've got to make one more wire out of it with this one. So this one will have one of those ends on it that you put a bolt through. The other end I've got to put a battery terminal on, battery clamp on, sorry. Yeah, so I'll do that and then we'll be ready to hook all that up and see what it does. So I'll quickly do that. Okay, there's the two leads. Now it's time to hook them up to the battery. So I'll show you how they hook up. Alright, so the first lead will go from positive post on your starting battery, cranking battery, and that will run to this post here of your isolator where the red arc little computery thing sits there. That's where that one runs, and then your second wire runs from this post here and that up to the positive post on your second battery. Make sure that when you hook them two leads up, they're not going to touch on there or you'll have problems. So I will hook them up now. When you're hooking up these leads, don't do them too tight because you could risk breaking the isolator. Okay, that's on there pretty good. What I'll do is I'll hook my other one up and then I'll hook them up to the batteries. Alright, that one should be tied up. So now I will set this one up. Alright, that one's on. Give this one a tap down with a hammer. Okay. Do this terminal up top. This one up. Okay, that's all hooked up. Now we'll try her out, see what she does. Okay, you got the ute running. So this battery's obviously charging. Got your red light on there, which means that this secondary battery is charging. So she's a good one at the moment anyway. So what I'll do, I'll grab my multimeter. We'll just make sure that she is charging. Alright, so I hooked it up to my multimeter. As you can see there, 14.2 volts. So that's working nicely. So that part of the battery setup is done. Okay, so I've set up the dual batteries now. Isolator's working, that's all hooked up nicely. I've got to make a bracket for the cradle for this battery, so I've just got a couple of big zip ties holding in there for now. I'll do that at a later date. Got to get a couple of bolts to suit there too. Alright, so the next stage of this process that I'm going through now is this blue wire here, the override wire. I'm going to hook that up to a momentary switch, which will allow me to jump this battery, crank battery, off the second battery here. So what I need to do is run a wire from this one here into the cab. And I've got a switch here, it's just a push button one, so when that's spring loaded one, so you can't push it on, you got to like hold it to keep it on. That's how those ones work. I'll put a fuse on that wiring, run that up through the, let me just refer to my instructions again as to where it's actually got to go. These are the instructions they give you, they're dead simple to follow. So what I'm doing is this one here, option 3. So as you can see, there's the momentary switch. Get a little bit closer. There's the momentary switch. You put a 5 amp fuse on it, and that goes from the override there to the switch, out to the fuse, and then on to the, what one is that? That is the main battery one down there on the isolator. So I'll hook all that up. So what I'll do now is I'll make me wiring loom, set me switch up in the cab, and we'll hook all that up to the battery. Okay, what I've done is I've pulled the front of the dash apart here, because I'm going to run my switch up, and I've drilled a hole down there, as you can see there, for my switch, which is going to pop through like that. And then these two wires will hook up to the back. So what I've done is I've crimped one little terminal end on there, and now I've got to solder in my fuse. So I'll solder that one in there like that, and then I'll put another terminal on the end of this wire there. And then once I've done that, I can hook them up to the switch and put that switch in, and then I can hook it up to the isolator, and we'll be ready to go from there. So we'll twist those wires together nice and tight. Fire up my soldering iron. We'll join these two ends together. Okay, that should be pretty right, I think. Okay, so now we'll try and slip this heat shrink over, which has started to shrink because of the heat coming from the solder. Might have to snip that. Make a little cut in it just to open that back up. Alright. Okay, that should be pretty good, I reckon. Right, so we've soldered that up. I'll trim a little bit off the end of this wire here, and I will put another terminal on it. That's the terminals on, like so. So what I'll do is I'll whack my switch in, and I'll find a 5 amp fuse as well, and that'll be ready to go. Alright, dash is back together. Got the switch mounted in there, so as I said, push that in. That's what connects the two batteries together. So that's all ready to go there. So now I'll hook up the other end to the battery, the isolator, and that override switch. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, got the override switch wired up now. So here's the override wire. There's the wire that goes down to that post there. So that's all wired up. So if I have a flat battery on the cranking battery, I push that button when I hit the key, and it'll fire it right up, connects those two batteries together. Can be also used if you've got a winch If you want a winch, obviously you want more current. You don't want to wreck your cranking battery, so you can hook both together while you're winching. Hold that button. Same thing. So yeah, that's pretty much how you set it up. As I said, it's pretty simple. Give yourself a few hours to do it. Depends on your car though. Land Cruisers are dead easy just because they're so agricultural. Really, they're easy to run all the wiring through the cab, and yeah, setting them up through the firewalls. No worries doing it. So yeah, thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.